All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Gunner Technology Livestream, a weekly tech talk for non-techies and techies alike. I'm your host, Darren Merkins. With me is CEO of Gunner Technology, Cody Swan. What's going on, Cody?
Not much. You think they're like when we're live, people are like, good, because I was thinking they were dead.
We are alive.
We are alive.
We are still alive. Yeah, you know, there probably are people checking in each week just to make sure.
Yeah.
You know what? It's not a bad way. Like, if we ever got, there's that movie with James Franco. It's like 128 hours or something where he gets caught in a canyon. He gets his arm trapped in a rock.
Yeah, 48 hours? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Eddie Murphy shows up and saves him.
That's right. And they trade places.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. With Dan Aykroyd. The two of them trade places with Dan Aykroyd. Okay. It's a weird movie.
Got it.
There's no chance of that happening with us.
No.
If Thursday 1 p.m. Eastern time rolls around and we're not here, like, search teams immediately.
Better be.
Yeah. If not.
Do you have any shred of humanity?
I mean, come on. Don't you care about us? So let's go ahead and dive right in. We got our Connoisseur giveaway. Connoisseur is a lifestyle brand. For anyone who loves the outdoors, you can visit them at ConnoisseurOutfitters.com. The winner this week is Dan F. from Bethesda, Maryland, my old stomping ground. I don't think I know a Dan F. I know Dan K., but not a Dan F. But anyways, Dan, congratulations. You won a Connoisseur hat and copies of all of our ebooks. And for anyone who didn't win this week, you can sign up for the Connoisseur giveaway on our Facebook page. And while you're on our Facebook page, go ahead and answer the question of the week, which in a twist, I am now doing question of the week. So the question of the week this week, and it's kind of based off of, I guess Motorola just released a phone called the G7, which is like a $300 phone. They're hoping it's, I don't know, I don't want to say iPhone killer, but they hope it's like a really nice phone for $300, which I guess is TBD. But the question of the week this week is, would you ever spend $1,000 plus on a smartphone? I mean, and the two options are yes, or I already have, or definitely not, or maybe. So those are the two options.
You ran into the bane of my existence, which is that Facebook only allows you two options, which is just...
I would love to have split that into four.
I mean...
Maybe I should have done two separate questions. Do you own $1,000 plus iPhone or phone?
A decision tree, if you will.
If you will. Because I think retail iPhone XS is, with tax, over $1,000. Just the base, cheapest version of that phone.
This is the first time, I mean, usually I go off model. Like I'll go
right.
Get a model, skip a model, get a model. Now I've had my same phone for, I don't know, three years plus. I mean, I just had the battery issue that everyone had.
Yeah.
And I fell into the same category where I just went and got the battery replaced. Because,
go ahead.
I mean, number one, I don't take pictures with my phone ever. Like ever. Hardly ever. So the new camera doesn't do it for me. Everything is about, all the upgrades now for the phone are about like niceties that I don't care about, like unlocking the phone with my face or like more screen real estate, like all that stuff. I don't care about. Like I don't care about. Then the performance, what's that? Moore's law is like shrinking. It's not even holding to Moore's law anymore. So the improvements you get from the hardware is negligible now. So I just don't care.
The trouble is that the previous versions too are really nice phones still. Like they almost made two high quality devices. The devices should have been much worse.
Yeah.
I think these phones are still eminently usable, even going back to like the 5S.
100%. And I just figured out if you turn off app background refresh.
Yeah.
Your battery lasts so much longer. And all that's saving you is when you click over to an app you want to use that you pull down to refresh it, as opposed to it's automatically refreshing. So we probably sound like we're 98 years old right now, but I'm fine with that.
Like, okay, Grandpa, and they're on their iPhone just doing.
Why would I
stuff.
get a new phone when this phone works just fine?
That's a brick.
As my mom tells me, is like a subtle. I don't know if she's like just trying to punch me in the gut, or if she actually is, or if she's being genuine. But she's like, well, maybe you just have to admit that you're too old to be in the demographic that they're targeting anymore. And I'm like,
never.
Doh.
I mean, you did just celebrate a big birthday, so
yeah, 37.
It's a milestone birthday.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
Everyone, big blowout for a 37th birthday. Yeah, maybe we are just over the hill. And that it very well may be the case. But anyways, if you're not over the hill and you do have a $1,000 phone or you want one, hop on our Facebook page and vote for that option. But we can go ahead and dive in today for something that I think being over the hill is almost a bit of an advantage for. And that's the topic of the day, which is sales. Because I think experience plays a large part in sales, and especially learning how to sell something to somebody. So has that been your experience in terms of sales?
Yeah, man. Sales is something where, like, again, here's where I keep going back to. Like, I fluctuate now because I used to think that sales was like all art, but it's really not. It's a lot of art, but if you're doing the right things to learn, then it is a heavy dose of science as well. Meaning, if in the sales process you're just going out there and chatting it up and kind of like wondering if you're going to sign the person, and when you do sign the person, you just celebrate, yeah, we signed the person, and when you don't sign the person, you're like, oh crap, we didn't sign the person, then it's just going to be all art. But if you're actually like tracking your sales pipeline and talking to people, seeing why you did and didn't win the contract, then it's more science because you can refine your pitch and kind of whittle it down to a winning approach.
And like, how long does that process take? I guess it's probably endless, but how long until you have a pitch that really lands?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, you can't have one pitch, and that's just why we got to go back to like this whole process that we've talked about, where it starts with marketing and networking. It funnels down to prospecting, and then it eventually ends up in sales. So, like, if you think about it, marketing and networking are like convincing people they should go into a room. And then prospecting is like getting people out of the room that don't belong there. And then sales is getting them to try to buy something in the room. That's kind of like what it is. And so if every stage is doing their job, like if marketing is getting the right people in the room, if marketing and networking are getting the right people in the room, and prospecting are doing two things. Prospecting is getting rid of the people who don't belong there and accumulating information about the people who should be there. Then when you as a salesperson are talking to them, you're talking to the right people, and you should have information about them that will help you tailor your pitch to that person.
Yeah, that's a good point too about sort of the divisions of knowledge bases or talents, because being a good marketer is much different than being a good salesperson. Sales is
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Marketing is all about getting people interested. Like a whole like the whole thing, like I said, about getting someone in the room. Like, marketing may be like, step inside to unlock the mysteries of the universe kind of thing. That's getting people interested. But selling them,
which is our new marketing strategy. That's our
exactly. And by the way, I don't think that marketing is easier than sales or vice versa. It's just different.
It's different talents, really.
Yeah, it's hard to get people interested, and it's hard to get them to give you money. So it's weird because marketing is all about the product or service, and really sales is all about you as the person. Like, people can get interested in a product, but they may not give you money for it because they want to trust you first. So sales is much more about actually selling yourself and your company than selling your product or your service. That's what marketing is for. Sales is about connecting on like that personal level.
And the sort of the intermediary that we talked about last week is really prospecting. So what's prospecting's relationship with sales? Sort of how did the two function best as a team?
Yeah. So if prospecting is doing its job, then I don't have to go up to the person and say, hey, what kind of line of work are you in? Where'd you go to school? Were you in a fraternity? How many kids you have? Like, we can kind of skip all those niceties. And again, like I said last time, you don't want to be like, oh, you're Joe. You went to Florida State. You were an ATO. You've got 2 daughters. One's in college. You don't want to be like that, because then they'll hit the door running.
Right.
But you can tailor the conversation to, like, my gosh, I wouldn't want to be raising a daughter in today's climate. It's scary out there. You know what I mean? And then you kind of connect on commonalities, and he doesn't automatically think, because you're saying that, you already know that he has or she has 2 daughters kind of thing. Right. But that's how prospecting is doing its job, is basically getting you information on the people you'll be talking to.
And I guess also not sending you leads who are never going to convert, not sending you sort of dead leads.
Yeah, gatekeepers, like gatekeepers. So again, using the marketing analogy, think of it as a club, right? Like everyone, marketing is trying to get people into the club. Like just show up, go to Club 57. But when you get to Club 57, there's going to be a bouncer outside, and the bouncer's actually going to screen who goes inside. That's the prospector's job right there.
And then the bartender would be the salesperson trying to sell as much liquor as they possibly can to the person.
Exactly. Or the drunk gentleman trying to meet people inside would be the salesman. But no, you're right. In the analogy,
I mean, it actually probably works better. Talk about that sales process a little bit. What are sort of the steps? Because obviously you're trying to build rapport with the person based off of the information you've gleaned from the prospecting analysis. But how does you're not going to convert the sale right away. So what are the steps to sort of take someone from a prospective client to a paying client?
Yeah. And so again, that's like you said, all about the trust building process, but people are, especially when you're trying to sell them something, they're risk averse. So the whole process should be about removing risk and showing benefit. Basically, you want them to think that going with you has as little risk as possible and has the highest upside possible. Basically, they want to know that you're an expert, you're not going to do them wrong, and if you're successful, they're going to see a lot of benefit. And again, I'm talking about the service side of selling because that's what we do. Product sales, like if you're selling like apparel, it's kind of the same thing, but you're not really doing it in person unless you're selling wholesale when you're actually talking to like a retailer. But again, it's the same process where you build trust, show benefit, and reduce risk. It's the same thing as product, except you're not generally doing it in person. You're having like testimonials on your website. You have a good return policy, things like that. So while product and service are a lot different in terms of where they're done, the process is very similar.
What's the life of a salesman like? Because I'm imagining like Willy Loman, Death of a Salesman stuff here. But what is sort of like a day in the life of a salesman in general, and especially with like tech sales as far as services and products go?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it depends on your division of labor. We're a small company, and like our sales team are very technical as well, since we're cross-functional. So, for example, the day in the life of a salesman for us will be either going at reading prospecting reports to get to know the people they're talking to, right? And or meeting with these prospects either on the phone, composing an email, or meeting with them in person, preferably meeting with them in person, and or writing proposals to send to bring to the prospect. It's a combination of those three things. And again, it depends on the individual if they want to batch it up, as in today is going to be the day that I do research. Tomorrow is the day I'm going to do meetings / appointments. And then Saturday is the day I'm going to write proposals, kind of thing.
And we do spend time as a team each week sort of refining proposals and pitches and trying to because the difficulty is sort of getting the word across in exactly the right way. It really is tough to convince people, but the proof is in the pudding. It's almost like you have to start that relationship, and then once they see the tangible benefit they get from it, they're on board at that point. But it's getting past that first step that's the hugest hurdle.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why, like, if you've been watching the show for a while, we don't actually have a product to sell. We're not like selling any piece of software. And our biggest hurdle is always, we know, or we're 98% certain that no matter who you are, whether you're an entrepreneur, small, medium-sized business, or a government entity, we can help you. What we don't know is exactly how we can help you. So during that getting to know you process, we kind of want to understand your business and kind of talk to you about it. And we want to do our background research on the industry in general and see where the pain points are in the industry in general. But we want to talk to you and get to know you, your pain points at an individual company or business level, or if you're an entrepreneur, what your idea, the problem it solves is. Because we're going to come back to you and we're going to say, help
us help you.
That's right. That's right. Basically, after talking, we talked last week and you mentioned that, like, it's nearly impossible to get people to come in on a rainy day, come into your bar on a rainy day. Well, you know, what if we had like this app that was like an alert system, so when it was rainy, you could like ping people for like a 50% off discount or something like that. It's a contrived idea. I just came up with it on top of my head, but we're going to actually pitch you an idea if you don't have any, and we're going to see what you say about that. And maybe you love the idea, maybe you like the idea. More importantly, it gets you, the organization, or you, the entrepreneur, thinking about things. And maybe that's not what you want to do, but that gives you an idea for something else. No, I don't really like that, but we have bingo night every Thursday. And if we could pre-sell bingo cards in an app, that would be huge. Okay, now we're talking. So right. The salesperson is basically just, and again, it never works. It never works if you're in our line of work to be like, what do you need? What do you need? We can build it for you. Never works. Right. Because if they knew that, they wouldn't be talking to you like this. You have to kind of extract it from them and bounce it off of them. So once you have an idea that sticks, as the salesperson, you bring it back, as you were saying, the team at large. You put together a team, a project manager, and a team of developers, and you're like, hey, I was talking to so-and-so, and he really thinks that it would be huge if we could sell bingo cards through an app. Let's talk about what's involved there to actually get that done. And so that's when, as a team, you spec out the work, you break into what are called user stories, you create a mock-up, and then after you have the details flushed out, you go back to them and be like, look, here's some, because people, especially non-technical people love to see a diagram or a wireframe. It's very hard for them to visualize what it is without that wireframe. So you show the wireframe, gets them excited. And then basically our next step is, well, look, we can get started on this for 30 days, no risk. At the end of 30 days, if you like it, we keep going. If you don't like it, whatever, there's no obligation. We don't even ask them to sign anything during that 30 free days. And that's us removing the risk to show we're not hucksters, because, by the way, our industry has a horrible reputation for like just ghosting clients, like getting started on a website or getting started on an app and then disappearing. Or
producing terrible work.
Right. I was gonna say, in the case of outsourcing overseas, like, again, you say, I want you to build me a car, and they return you something with like wooden wheels on it. And they're like, well, it's a car.
Our definition of a car is a wooden board with 4 wheels attached to it. So what do you expect?
Right, exactly. So our industry has a horrible reputation for ghosting and just returning the worst work. So that 30 days lets them see, no, we're good at what we do. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. And it allows them to see like how quickly we can operate, because that's the other thing that's really tough about us, because everyone wants to know, what is it going to cost me? What is it going to cost me? What is it going to cost me?
Yeah.
Very rarely, this is, in this regard, we're nothing like construction. We don't know how, in construction, they know how much it is to haul cement, pour cement, put up a wall. They know all that stuff. Everything is different almost every time we do it. Some common tasks are there, but for the most part, software is different every time you do it. And you can build some reusable components, but most of it is like starting from scratch every time. So when you say, how much is it going to take to sell bingo cards through an app? I have no idea. Right now, if you're asking me, somewhere between $200,000 and $200,000. Right. But during that 30 days allows us to actually get going and get into the weeds and see where the trouble points are. And then instead of saying at the end of the month, it's going to be between $200,000 and $200,000, we can say it's going to be between $20,000 and $24,000 or something like that kind of thing.
It's also good too. I mean, it's like a 4-week research sprint where you learn more about the product, and it's a benefit to the client too, because they'll end up with some fully functional product or service, but they'll end up with something after 30 days, and they're welcome to take it anywhere else they want to. But they'll at least they should have some idea about how much it should cost and how long it should take based on the 30 days we work with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We actually have a question from an old coworker. This is a great question, which is how it's sort of based off what you were just talking about, which is sales and the development team working together. But it's, how does sales best function along with the development team? And as an anecdotal aside, I remember back in our days at ESPN, so it'd been like 07, 08, we had ESPN obviously had sales, had a sales department that, you know, would get sponsors who would want something integrated with ESPN, the website, or ESPN, the network, or any of the ESPN's products. So we got a call as the community group from the sales team at ESPN who said, this was in January or February maybe, who said, hey, we just sold the Masters widget to, I don't know if it was Gatorade. Okay. So they said we sold the Masters widget. So can you produce a branded Masters widget in a month or two? That's not the best way for sales to work with a development team, is to sell something that doesn't exist in the team and say, hey, I know you don't have any time or resources budgeted this, but can you build it? Build it for us.
And it was a massive, I think they sold it for like $1 million too.
It was a huge contract. So we obviously had to build it. And I don't think I slept for 2 months building that.
Yeah. It
awesome Masters widget, which is actually pretty cool.
You can't be like, oh yeah, we're not going to build that. I mean, like,
yeah, no, just take that $1 million hit. But we got it done. But point being, there's a better way for sales to work with a development team, and it's easier, obviously, for us as a smaller shop where it's sort of sales and dev work together every day. But what are some key, I guess, some key tips for sales and development teams working together?
I mean, you don't have to be like a completely technical person to do the sales aspect of it, but you have to understand some technical stuff. Like I always say that, like, if you're not technical, if you're not a cross-functional team like we are, that you as a salesperson should bring a developer with you on at least a couple appointments, and vice versa. Well, you should sit down with the developer when you're talking with the developer about what's involved in building this out. And that'll really illuminate the differences and the struggles that each side go through. And again, I kind of chuckle because some engineers you don't really want to bring on a sales call.
Yeah.
Or if
there's almost.
Yeah, if you do, you're kind of like, all right, just I'm gonna buy you a drink and just sit there and enjoy the drink. We're gonna get you a sippy cup and a bib. and I say that because I'm making fun of us. I mean, but it's some of the engineers are day walkers, some of them aren't. And so you definitely
get a little tense. Give them a game to play. Give them something to do, something to keep occupied.
Like an iPad. Like don't.
Yeah, just set them up with and let them go to town for half an hour.
But I think that's a big key, is actually being there to see like what the questions are asked. Because like as the developer, you're like, what's the problem? It works. But if you're there with the client and the salesperson, you can understand like the client's like fears and you know what they're hearing, because the client should be, you know, talking to the users and getting their feedback. So it's beneficial to hear, for the engineer to hear the business concerns of the client, and it's beneficial for the salesperson to understand why the developer can't just give them a price kind of thing.
Yeah, and even when they do give a price or a timeline, it'll at least be slightly more accurate than if the salesperson's trying to come up with it. Instead of $200,000, you might get $10,000 to $50,000. You might at least get some sort of a smaller window. You're going to get more information from the developer. He's just not going to be a good salesperson. Oh, I will say one thing that you can do is, and what we're starting to do, is have a lot of documentation, have a lot of training manuals, a lot of videos that walk through sort of like the best processes to go through when you're trying to help a salesperson out, or you're going on a sales call with somebody. Certain things that you do and don't want to do. So if you can sort of document that and have people learn that kind of stuff, because it is learnable, it's a learnable skill, the whole process runs smoother.
Sure. I mean, yeah, exactly. And this is where I say there's a lot more science in it than I realized. So like, there's still a lot of art involved in sales, but like,
absolutely, yeah.
If you say, if you hire a new salesperson, or you take someone in your organization, say you're going to do sales, and say, point A is when you get the contact from networking, or from prospecting, when you get the contact from networking, and point B is a close, like you leave a lot of like stuff to figure out. But if you're like, point A is getting the prospect or getting the contact from prospecting. Point B is reading the profile on the contact. Point C is trying to come up with some sort of idea, a loose elevator pitch for something that would fit his the contact's industry. Point D is scheduling a meeting with the person. Point E is pitching your idea. You see what I'm saying? You still have art, but it's less art and more science.
There's art at each step, but you have sort of a scientific step-by-step to go through.
Right. It's art. It's RT instead of artful, I guess you'd say.
The artful dodger.
Yes,
don't dodge a sales call. Any final thoughts on sales? Any final tips or tricks to share with our audience?
I mean, yeah. So number one is persistence. Like, it was interesting. I just read this book, and it was like, if most salespeople will give up after one unreturned phone call, and if I think it was 50 or 60%, and then 90% after two. But you got to figure out if that's the case. If that's the case, then if this is a highly sought after prospect, then your competition dwindles with each call. So you're the one who stays in the race. You never know why that person's not returning your phone call. At UF, when I walked on the football team, this is kind of interesting, and I know it happens in sales too. When you're not a preferred walk-on, meaning they didn't contact you and say, "Hey, please walk on," more than half of the tryout is them dodging you just to see how persistent you will be to get a tryout. That's more than half of the ability, is just you being like, "Hey, didn't hear back from you. Hey, when's my tryout? Seriously, haven't got a hold of you." They just want you to actually show that you want to be on the team so badly that you're going to keep at it over and over and over again. I don't know if that's still the case. It was back when I was there. So sales is a lot of the same way. Sometimes maybe the contact really is on vacation or something, or maybe they just are really playing games and they want to see how badly you want to get a hold of them, to if you're willing to pursue them enough to get them on the phone or get a meeting with them to actually get their business.
80% of life is showing up, as they say.
Yeah, who said that? Was that Yogi Berra?
I think it was Woody Allen, actually.
That's right. It was. That's right.
But yeah, I mean, that's good life advice, not just sales advice, but persistent, highly overvalued in this, not overvalued, undervalued in this world. I mean, it's such a key to success, and especially in sales. So hopefully that helps everyone out there. Sales, and make sure to tune in next week for the next episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream, where we'll be talking about something else. Let me look that up real quick. I was gonna say it was.
We kind of skipped networking. Maybe we should go back and do networking. I know we had a list, but I don't know.
I have the email with the list right here, and I'm pulling it up right now. Did we not do networking?
We didn't.
How did networking fall through the cracks?
I don't know. We networked it right out of there.
Yeah. Nurturing was the next one, but we might rejigger that and do networking next week. So tune in to find out which episode we're actually doing next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can read the blog post for this episode at gunnertech.com. The podcast will be available on iTunes. Our ebooks are up on iBooks, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kobo, and anywhere else ebooks are sold. Make sure to hop on our Facebook page and sign up for the Country Store giveaway. Country Store is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. You can visit them at countrystoreoutfitters.com. and answer our question of the week, which this week is, would you ever buy a $1,000 plus smartphone? And your two options are yes, or you already have. I already have, or no/maybe. So I guess we're trying to gauge if somebody, we're trying to find the gung-ho people for $1,000 plus smartphones.
That's right.
They must be out there, and they must be under the age of 25. So hop on our Facebook page, answer that question, and tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the next episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. I'm Derry. That's Cody. We'll see you next week.